Welcome to Awakened with Victoria Bond. I'm your host, Victoria, and I am absolutely honored to bring you this podcast where we will be getting raw, real, turning up consciousness, removing the old energies that do not align, and turning up our capacities as human beings and spiritual beings. I will be bringing you mediumship. I will be bringing you channels. I will be bringing you points of view that will shift your perspective and realign your body, your mind, and your soul. Enjoy this ride. This comes from my heart to yours, and know that while you're listening to this, indeed, you are helping to create this. Enjoy the ride, and I'll see you inside.
The frequency of expanding. Today, I would like to touch on collapsing timelines, quantum leaping, and the difference between resistance and unalignment. And of course, I've got a couple of stories to share that where I have been in both and how I navigated myself through them. There are some key points with your body, how you feel, and also the energies around you, how they come into play when something is in alignment or whether it is not in alignment. And these are crucial when it comes to stepping into your own genius, your superpowers, and of course, the frequencies of your very own expansion and evolution. So this can be really tapped into on all different areas of your life and your relationships, in your business, with your own spiritual growth, your mental, your emotional, your spiritual. All of those components are really about understanding the energies of expanding yourself to the highest frequencies available when it comes to any area of your life. So today I'm going to talk a little bit more about my business experience and how I've been able to navigate if something is in resistance or if it is unaligned. And what I see with my clients and especially what I've observed with myself is the energies are very, very different, but because of the conditioning and the programming that we have experienced in our lifetimes, we can sometimes get both of those different energies confused. So I want to break that down for you. I've got a perfect example of when I first had a 2-hour session with my book editor. So all of a sudden, my book dropped in. I'm going to be writing a book. It came in very, very quick, very, very fast. Obviously, behind the scenes, energetically, there was a whole lot of things falling into place for my conscious awareness to register that a book had already been written. It's sitting in my vortex. And now it's time to find the team to help me create this book and birth it to the world. Very exciting, very high frequency, super high vibe. And of course, the book editor / coach just landed right in front of me. One of a peer in another container had actually said to me, "Have you checked out my friend? She is incredible. She has just been on this journey. She is an editor, a coach, and you may resonate with her." I just happened to already know who she was because I had already been in a program with her years ago. So it all kind of was divine timing and divine alignment, which was beautiful. But when it came to my 2-hour session with her, which was about 2 weeks later, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a train. I literally felt I couldn't wake up. I was drinking coffee. I was saying to my husband, I've got a session with this coach, with this book editor in 10 minutes, and I just cannot seem to get into my body. What is happening? I felt like I wanted to cry. I felt so much resistance in the call, even though I had been looking forward to it so much, like so much. I was counting down the days and the hours for the session that I had invested in to create the book of my dreams. I wake up just feeling absolutely flat, like rubbish, and not even in my body. So when I go to click on the link, I can't find it. I can't find the Zoom link for us to actually, connect. So I message her and say, "Can you please send it to my email?" My email wasn't working. So I messaged again, "Can you please send it to my messenger?" She sends it through. I set up my laptop, and all of a sudden the internet is super dodgy. The internet's not working. The connection is bad. I go tell my husband in the building next door, can you please sort out the internet? He sorts out the internet. Usually I have perfect internet, and it's still not working. By this stage, I'm looking at the book editor going, oh my gosh, she's going to think I'm flaky. This is terrible. She's probably regretting that she's doing this. We were such a build up, and now it's a shit show. What is happening? I very quickly realized that it wasn't entities messing with this. It may have been a little bit, but it was actually more my very own resistance in the growth that I was choosing. So therefore, the frequency I require to tap into create this expansive container of a vortex, this expansive vortex of book creation is larger than the capacity that I've been currently holding for myself. It's a big deal, and the resistance that comes up was matching that. So my subconscious mind was putting everything in place, even though it seemed external, it was putting everything in place for me to just simply go, never mind, I'm not meant to do it. Let's stay safe and let's stay small. So once I realized that was a resistance, and I was talking to, of course, the coach through this really terrible internet connection, I made a decision. This has to work. There's always a solution. We're going to work through the resistance. So I got onto my cell phone, and instantly she felt the difference. Instantly I felt the difference. Instantly the pressure and the resistance started to resolve itself, and we began. We then showed my subconscious and the universe and all the spirits around that we have made this decision, we have made this commitment to really show up and start this book creation. I have felt this resistance many times in my life. Another time was when I went to begin my first summit. I didn't even know what a summit was, but I had been led down a beautiful funnel on the internet, which promised me millions of dollars and massive impact. I pushed buy, and I had literally borrowed all the money from my children's bank accounts, from anything extra we had. I borrowed it from ourselves and bought a program which was thousands of dollars, and I didn't know what it was, but it felt energetically correct. It had dropped in that I really required to do this program. When I went to begin it, I realized I'm going to need a computer. I'm going to need to be interviewing people all around the world. I'm going to have to send emails. I'm going to have opt-ins, a virtual assistant. I had no idea what any of this meant, and I didn't know how to write emails. I could barely send like a text, right? That was like the amount of tech I would do was actually send a text to somebody, which was never a long text because, of course, being dyslexic, it's quite hard for me to type. It's quite hard for me to read. Sometimes I can get overstimulated quickly. So all of a sudden, I've delved into this vortex of creating a summit where I must record videos and upload them onto YouTube and do all this techie stuff. And I had a computer phobia, which meant that when I stood at the computer room and I looked into that office and I saw the computer, I would start getting anxiety. I would start freaking out. But I was thinking, this is aligned. This is something I have to do. I know I have to do the summit, whatever that means. I know that this is the path to create the impact to help all those mothers in the world that are struggling like I was. My husband actually said to me, look, if you want an out, that's okay. I won't judge you for the money that we've spent. It doesn't matter. You can stop. You don't have to put yourself through this. And I tapped into my body and I was like, no, I have to do this. But I had to work through so much resistance when it came to connecting with people, interviewing people, doing videos. It was so much resistance that I would have to navigate that through my body, through my mindset, and also really just through everything, the words that I was speaking out and the stories I was telling myself. So I learned to use a computer. And I had to do some really deep healing on the past version of me that had a phobia about computers. And that went back to childhood. It went back to school, when every time I touched a computer, it would blow up. And pretty much the teacher at the start of the year, who said it's always the user, never the computer, by the end of the year, the teacher had said to me, I think you were right. I don't think computers like you. So here I am wanting to create a summit with a computer with an interesting point of view that computers don't like me and I don't like computers. So how are we going to work together? There was a very, very big resistance. I was able to work through that and interview 23 experts from all around the world and reach thousands of people in a free summit that I was the creator of, called Mum's Time to Shine. Now, this summit admittedly did not bring me the millions of dollars that I had anticipated. It certainly didn't grow me an email list of 5,000, 10,000, 50,000, like some people have done very easily on their own summits. It built me a very modest email list of around about 1,000 people. And it connected me with some great leaders all around the world, and it changed hundreds of people's lives. Hundreds or even thousands, because the ripple effect I had from creating a summit and bringing expert voices to mums around the world who have experienced burnout and spiritual awakenings is priceless. And if I hadn't done that summit, I could nearly guarantee I wouldn't be recording right now. I wouldn't be writing a book. I wouldn't be doing podcasts, YouTube videos, being on Facebook and Instagram, and doing a lot of free content everywhere, and creating online portals like my signature program, Magnificent Mediumship, would not have been created. But because I stepped through the resistance, I took on the challenge, I made the commitment, I created the discipline, and I also believe it was probably it was harder for myself more than so many other people, because of my lack of tech skills and my inability to actually figure out what the hell I was doing. Step by step by step by step by step, I showed up. And if I had to do the intro video 500 times, I did it 500 times. Even if that meant I locked myself in a room until I did it. And I practiced when I was coming out of the shower. I was in the shower while I was holding my babies. I was walking. This kind of drive that I had to work through the resistance, because I knew it was aligned. That is what has got me here today in my business, is the unwavering faith, the unshakable faith, the unstoppable energy that I'm here to make a difference. And resistance is intense, but I will walk through that. And this is what I experienced, very similar with the book writing experience, was when I was talking to my coach and the editor, and we just could not manage to get together. And we were both like, whoa, because this is a big project for her as well. And she'll be going on her own mediumship journey with this. It felt exactly the same as the summit. And the summit was a big point in my life. And so is the book that I'm creating. So when we feel resistance in our body, it feels scary. It feels like you were just about to jump off a cliff and go bungee jumping or go skydiving. It can feel like you're just about to do something for the first time, and it's big. You feel it in your heart, you feel it in your soul, and there's no turning back, because the pain of not doing it is more intense than if you pull through and you work through that resistance. It is very, very interesting how many people are settling in the world, and they are listening when someone says, you don't need to do that. You don't need to be larger than you are. You don't need to you don't need to do the impact. You don't need to do these things. Be grateful for what you've got. And although I believe sometimes there's a place for sitting in for what you have and the gratitude, but if you're feeling like there's more, that means there is more. And it's not selfish to step forward and take what is your birthright, which is your success and it is your satisfaction and it is your imprint, your gift to the world. Most people, when they come to me, they feel resistance. They feel resistance when they sign up. They feel resistance when they listen to my podcasts or my YouTube videos. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of resistance when my book comes out and I am challenging people in what they have chosen. And I love this because it's so important for us to have some skin in the game. It's so important for us to have a challenge and have something that pushes us so we can expand our capacity. It is so important for us to live the life that we're here to live, and no one actually said it would be easy. And a lot of that isn't the tasks at hand and it's step by step by step by step. It's more the mindset of the capacity of the project that you're taking on or the impact that you desire to create. Now, these are when the quantum leaps happen. These are when we collapse the timelines, but they're never in the linear fashion that we perceive them to be. So what I mean by that is when I was doing the summit, which was like, I don't know, like 6 years ago or whatever, that is actually, it created a sense of navigation and systems and structures and knowledge and wisdom for this book writing experience I'm going through currently, which is interesting because there's 6 years in between there and there's a lot of growth in between there, but there's bridges between the timelines. So when we're collapsing the timelines, for instance, when I was doing the summit, not knowing where it was going or what it was doing, I was just trusting my inner gut, my intuition. In fact, I was preparing for creating a bestseller book, for a program called Magnificent Mediumship, for being on a platform and speaking to millions around the world, and I didn't know it. And the beauty about that was I wasn't meant to know it, because if you told me then what I'd be creating and how I'd be creating that and how it would be me creating the wealth and abundance for our family, it would be me having this, like creating this co-creation, I want to say, of impact around the world with millions of women around the world and men and children, then that may have been too much for me to be able to handle. So this is when we have to trust ourselves. If something feels scary and you feel resistance, but you know you must keep going with it, it is super important to know that those are the times and the moments that you are actually collapsing timelines. And today I was sitting in this energy of what else is possible with collapsing timelines. When we're in those moments of resistance, we're in those moments of navigation, in those moments of, do I quit? Am I meant to be here doing this? Am I a fraud? Will people judge me? Who do I think I am? Those moments of ego, those are the moments where we are quantum leaping. The quantum leaps are happening in the very small micro movements. In that little moment that I said, I'm going to do the summit and find the money and I know it's aligned, or I'm going to purchase the coach, even though I've only just heard of her, I've got to work with her, or I want this book, or I'm going to write a book, I'm going to run a marathon. I'm going to go, work on my marriage, or I'm going to have a baby. Whatever these moments are, when we make that decision, we have to know that that decision is the beginning of opening up that vortex. And that vortex was always there for us. It's nearly like we're switching on a code. We're opening a door, we're unlocking that door and we're opening it, and then we have access to it. These quantum leaps are happening in those thought processes, in those choices that we are making. And then when we follow through, of course, the resistance can come through. And, just to kind of acknowledge also that there is a lower essence, like a frequency, energy, vibration, and a higher essence, vibration, and frequency of everything. So I don't like saying right or wrong or good and bad. It's more like a vibration that we hold. So we can go into powerfulness of let's go through this, even though there's resistance, or powerlessness, which is more like, oh my God, I can't do it. I'm a failure. Again, it hasn't worked. And this is where we can see where people are thriving and succeeding because they work through the resistance and navigate if something is not aligned and pivot. And we can see the difference between those type of people and then other people who believe if it's too hard, then maybe they should quit. Maybe it's not aligned and they're getting the resistance and the unalignment actually a little bit muddled, or they're grouping them together, not acknowledging that they are actually two different themes that we're having here. Now, I'm going to give you a little story about when something was absolutely unaligned. And I believe I've got so many of these stories, but this was the biggest pivot, one of the biggest pivots in my business when something was so unaligned, it blew my mind. And I'm so proud of myself at how I navigated through, because I had to see if it was resistance or if it was unaligned. So around about my 38th birthday, I knew I was going through some quantum leaps. I knew that I was just about to unlock a door to a frequency of massive expansion. Like I knew it in my bones and I was excited. So I was working with a coach who I loved and adored. I've just recently stopped working with her and we'd been together for 2 years. So I absolutely adored her. But I felt that I needed something that was more structured, some more strategy-based coaching to help me hit those bigger months, because I had an interesting point of view that the more money I made, this is the frequency of money here, the more money that I made, the more impact I would create. Had this very interesting point of view that $100,000 months minimum would actually propel me to those massive amounts of impact. And although I totally believe that our human is here to be supported and we are here to have money flow to us with absolute ease and grace and joy, there was some ego attached, and we can have ego attached to creating solid points of views on how much we need to bring in. And this could be a 5 or a 10K or a 50K or 100K or $1 million month. We could have this attached to any number. We quite often do this as humans, is the ego comes in and goes, I want that car, or I want that house, or I want that achievement, or I want this and this and this and this and this. And we can actually attach ego. So my ego was basically saying to me, if you get to 100K consistent months, then you will start getting your word around the world faster, and you're going to start quantum leaping bigger, and you're going to become this massive big hit like other people are. It's going to help the world awaken up, and this is your next step. So I started getting this real yeah. So the ego is actually quite loud as well. So of course, when we have loudness, now, I've got to do this now, got to make this money, that can quite often be ego driven. Now, if you were like the opposite scale of that was, I'm here to do big things, I'm excited, I'm happy, it's going to be amazing, and what is my next steps? You can be super, super exciting, and you can be like, yes, let's do this, but you always know that divine timing is actually attached to when something is aligned. So, for instance, with writing a book, I know it's happening. I'm super excited. It's very aligned, but I don't have a point of view. It has to be done within 3 months. That would be kind of like that loudness, which would be ego-based. I'm doing it more from a place of grounding, of gratitude, of expansion, but I haven't put any money attached to it because that would be limiting it. So going back to the story, I decided I had to work with somebody who would get me, they would get me to 100K months with ease. because that is what my next step is. That is what I have to do. So what I did was I looked absolutely externally from myself, and I found a coach who was doing this. She was making a lot of money, and she had done it very quickly. She had been making basically no money to all of a sudden making, I don't know, like $300,000 months, making a lot of money, and she was doing it in cash. She's got the secret. She's got the strategy. She's the one who's going to activate me to get me to these next points. And I feel that she's very powerful. And I feel like she's doing this for her clients. So, of course, she can do this for me. Now, rather than actually sitting with this energy and tapping in to what I required, and this is interesting that it's coming up in my throat now, so you can hear that it's actually clearing as I'm speaking about this as well, because this is a year on now when I'm recording this. I dived in and I paid a lot of money. I paid straight away after a 15-minute conversation. I told my Luke, my husband, we've got to do this. I've got to do this. What do you think? What do you think? And it was loud, 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 loud. And he said, I trust that you know what you're doing. If it feels aligned for you, it's aligned. And I think I secretly wanted him to say, babe, no, come on, it's within you. But he knows that I always trust myself and I go with myself. And I spent the money. I dived into my tax account and I spent a lot of money on this coach. And what I found was there was a strategy. And what I found about that strategy was it had absolutely no resonance with the way that I wanted to coach, the way I desired to show up in the world. And it was the absolute opposite of what the promise was. The promise was, don't work so hard and make yourself millions of dollars. Here is the strategy. But the strategy was so unaligned with me that within 2 weeks of trying the posts and getting the phone calls and trying whatever the exact strategy was, because it didn't work for me, it could work with other people. I'm not saying this is a bad strategy. I'm just saying because it was unaligned with me and my projector vibes, with my energy, I couldn't do it. So for the first 2 weeks, I was trying not to beat myself up because I felt like it wasn't a mistake. So I kept going, this doesn't feel aligned. Maybe it's resistance. I even had a call with her and I said, look, I'm just feeling a lot of resistance. I'm feeling my body shutting down and I don't understand what's happening because this felt so aligned. And she said, it's resistance. You've got to put in the work and do it. And there was absolutely no emotional support on actually seeing if it was in alignment or not. But I trusted and I put my faith in somebody else, which doesn't matter how much money you ever spend, you should always trust your own resistance and unalignment. Like you need to trust what's going on, your internal compass, if you will. And after 2 weeks, I just went, I can't do this. This is killing me. Now, the minute I knew it was unaligned, and this was the tell point for me, was I considered going back to my 9 to 5 job. Maybe I could just go back to my 9 to 5 job. I would rather be a hairdresser, which I loved when I was in that vortex. I would love, maybe I could be a hairdresser and just have a normal job because this is shit. This feels really unaligned. Now, the fact that I considered going back to my old job when I love my job so much was a red flag. Another red flag was I wanted to sleep all the time. I literally wanted to sleep. And when I was in bed for nearly 3 days, just off and on, and saying to Luke, I just can't, I'll do it tomorrow, or I don't want to do that messaging. I don't want to do the DMing. I don't want to, like, oh my God. He was like, okay, I really don't think this is working for you. I don't think you should do what she's telling you to do. I think you need to do what you want to do. And then teach people how to do what they need to do, what they need to do with their strategy, with their alignment, because you can't teach this stuff because it's not even aligned with you. Another tell sign was the fact that people were dropping off. So people were signing up to my program and then changing their mind. I had people messaging me going, hey, I'm so sorry, but can I get out of that contract? I don't want to do this program. And I was like, what? I had like 3 or 4 people and it cost me around about $30,000. And then people weren't signing up in other areas. In my membership at the time or my mastermind, and my other programs, they were like, I want out. I don't want to be in your energy. And although they weren't saying that, there was this energy of like, hey, here's a spiritual guide. Here's this projector who is a spiritual educator. And now she's so focused on these big numbers. And here she is really like just throwing these numbers, make money, make money, make money down our throats. And this is not what we signed up for. So it was actually draining my bank account. I had the smallest month in business that month. And then when this coach told me that I needed to sign up with her to get the next part, to follow through because it's not going to work anymore, I said to her, this is not aligned for me. I can't do this and I won't do this. I was getting migraines. Now, this goes beyond resistance. Resistance is, I'm still fucking fired up about this. I've got excitement within my body. I am scared shitless. My body might want to pass out. I might distract or divert, or I might just start wanting to run away from it because I need to come in and focus because it's so big. But there's still that inner, I want to do it. Unalignment is a different energy. It is nearly like I want to quit. That is unaligned. Not just like I want to quit because it's too hard. It's like I want to quit because I don't want to fucking do that at all. Like that there is like a no. There's a difference between a yes, but I'm scared and I need support and it's a big, big deal, and no, I would rather go back to my old job. This is not aligned with me. I don't like it. It feels heavy, right? You can feel it where there's a heavy or a lightness. And for me, certainly when I saw my bank account draining, my body draining, my relationship draining, when I was literally seeing clients being repelled from me because of the content that I was putting out, was not me. It was actually mimicking the coach of what she was telling me and teaching me to put forward. And I was struggling a lot with my content, right? So I would be putting things into a template and celebrating this, and it felt good when I finally got there, but it could take me like an hour just to do a post. And when things come to you that hard, that is not in alignment. It is literally unaligned. So I want you to start noticing what is resistance and what is unaligned, because if you can work through the resistance like I did with the summit, which I'm so grateful I did, and work through the resistance like I did with the book coach, and work through the resistance in so many different areas that I've been in, you will be greatly rewarded for having the audacity to follow through, for being gutsy, for being intuitive, for putting those structures and disciplines into place. But if you're going down a road that is unaligned, then literally continuously going backwards. And it is like climbing up a hill, always going up and never having a reprieve. Life seems really, really slodgy, and shit will always block you and come in your way. You can become a victim, and also you can lose a sense of who you are because you are functioning from somebody else's reality and not your own. So no doubt you're going to feel resistance when it comes to mediumship, when it comes, because it's something that is so out of this like norm 3D. You're going to feel resistance when it comes to doing new things with your body or with your relationships, or maybe you want to write a book yourself or start an online business. And what I want to say to you is the frequency that you hold, the passion that you hold, the vision and the why of why you decided, or why that thing dropped into your reality and it felt like a hell yes, that is the thing that's going to continuously expand you forward. So the way I got through the summit, although I had the phobia about the computers and I had to actually become friends, we had to have a chat to each other and we had to like start getting to know each other. the way I did that was a little bit by a little bit by a little bit, and the practice and the practice and the practice, and having so much grace and holding on to that why. There were so many mothers around the world that were struggling. And if I struggled and I was having a spiritual awakening at the time, and if I was finding that living on no sleep was absolutely terrible and I felt like I was dying, then I'm sure there's other mothers out there. And I had found little kind of, I want to say, little problem solvers. So I found literally these processes and tools that helped me, like meditation, like consciousness, like understanding that our children are a contribution, energy, mediumship, affirmations, life coaching tools. And I desired so deeply for those around the world to be able to reach them for free. And if I could help one mum not want to die because she had experienced postnatal depression and didn't feel supported and felt like, she had spirit coming to her and all these different things. I was like, I'm going through this. Other people are going to go through this. And if I can help that one person show up and choose themselves and not sacrifice themselves for the rest of their life to be a mum and a wife and just settle, although being a mum and a wife is the most beautiful experience ever, we have got a fire in our heart and a mission and a message. And if I can reach somebody, if I can reach people to help them feel like they're not alone, then doing all this work for the summit, working through the resistance of the computer phobia, working through the resistance of reaching out to people and possibly getting rejected. And I did. I got really rejected, but I also got chosen. And I was reaching out to people that super famous. I don't know the etiquette when it comes to how to collaborate socially with whatever like hierarchy you're in type of thing. Then I was just like reaching out to everybody going, hey, be on my podcast. I mean, be on my summit. I didn't know there was I didn't know. I just thought people would say yes. And some people did. Some people did because they could feel my heart was in it. And some people said, no, we're busy, and no. Some people just totally ignored me. I was willing to be rejected, and I was also willing to be judged. And I had people that would message me and be like, what you're doing is wrong because you're bringing mediumship into it. What you're doing, and we are Christian and we are anti you, take me off your list immediately. So I had to deal with the judgment of others, the rejection of others. But my why and my reaching those women in the world was so, so, so much greater than the judgment I would receive or the rejection. So there's always going to be resistance when you're doing something great. There's always going to be judgment. And we have to be willing to show up for ourselves and believe in our own mission, even if we have our loved ones saying, you can quit if it's too much. You say, thank you, but no, I'm going to follow through because I am audacious. I am unstoppable. I have unshakable faith that I will be given whatever I require. And that is how I feel about my summit. And I even had people say to me, I told you you were not going to make any money from it. I told you it wouldn't work. And I was like, thank you for your opinion, because the funny thing is it did fucking work, because now I'm reaching thousands of people on my different platforms, reaching out and letting people know they're not alone. And here is some tips and tools for them. So always trust your own path. And if something is unaligned, just do the kind of navigation, Unaligned is literally like, no, I don't want to do this, and I could die and not give a shit that I didn't do it. But with the resistance, it's like with the whole book thing. If I don't write the book, will I be okay with that? No, because the book must be written because it's dropped in, and I know I must do that. Creating magnificent mediumship. Will I be okay if I just don't create this? No, because this has to be created. So there's going to be some resistance in creating it because it means so much to me. And there's going to be some work I require to put in. And maybe there's some resistance about doing the work or being judged again from other people. But I'm going to do it because the pain of not doing it is much greater than actually choosing it and putting the work in. So this is where the timelines collapse. We are given something which will support us with something else, but it's also created multiple timelines off that one choice that we make. It is never just for the now, it's always our future selves really getting us ready for the next big thing. And when it comes to the unalignment and choosing something that's unaligned, it was never wrong. When I chose the coach, the strategy coach, there was no stopping me. And the interesting thing about it was, to this day, and it wasn't really that long ago, but I learned one of the biggest lessons of my life, and that was to trust myself. But not only that, I learned exactly what I needed to know. And I'd ask Spirit to show me, for me to collapse the timelines to get to the biggest impact possible. What do I require to do? So the universe literally put exactly what I didn't want in front of me. And that was absolutely beautiful, because I will never not trust myself again. If something is unaligned, I will know it instantly because I know the feeling, so I won't choose it. I will choose another avenue to get me there with more ease and grace and joy. Now, the coach who taught me that, now it's not to say she did anything wrong. She, I'm sure, has certainly worked for many other people where that strategy was aligned. But for me, it was absolutely not. It was the opposite to alignment. And it had my body just spiraling into shutdown and burnout as well. So it was actually a burnout model, because if something is not aligned, it's hard to do. And if it's hard to do and you're trying to push uphill continuously, you're not going downhill, right? Downhill is easy, and there can be some resistance. There might be some bumps, right? You're like holding on, like, whoa, but it's still joyful. It's still fun. It's still kind of easy. We're uphill continuously. It can be very, very exhausting. And exhaustion is not the thing that we're aiming for. So if we can learn how to clean up if something is not, if it's resistance, and figure out whether it's aligned or not, then we will get to our destinations much quicker. When something is unaligned, it is literally like your gut dropping, and also nearly like, hey, I would rather pay you to go away. I don't want to do this. An example of this on a much smaller scale is hairdressing. I once had this thought before I fully quit, and I was like, I would rather pay that person $40, which was the price of the haircut, to go get a haircut somewhere else than to come to me for a haircut. So if you're wanting to pay your clients to go away to get their haircut from somewhere else because you don't want to do it, it's not aligned. Okay. So when you want to quit or do something else as a job, and you don't want to proceed with your mission or your challenge because it's just not fitting for you anymore, just like the clothes that were in fashion 2 years ago and you don't like them anymore, you get rid of them and you get new stuff, right? So it's the same type of concept. What is aligned, what is not aligned, and just really looking at those lists of how does this look for me? The timelines are continuously working in the past, the now, and the future, and they're working in a symphony together. And sometimes when they overlap, we can go through periods of resistance so we can actually expand the frequency that we are holding and growing in. And, so with the timelines as well, if we've got a parallel timeline, it's really, really interesting, because when my 38th birthday and my 39th birthday, when they came around that same time, about a month before my birthday, when I was purchasing the product off the coach for the strategy, a year later, after I obviously got out of it, I had done all my healing, all my clients came back, the money all went back up, the frequency of money, because my frequency went up. I actually had a big quantum leap in my channeling, all the things. When it came up, I felt it a year later. I was like, oh my gosh, I remember where I was this time last year. And I was able to go in and do deeper healing from a place of, I can now see how that unalignment is serving me now. Everything is always serving me. There's always a lesson and a purpose of why we chose it. And what I had chosen was to quantum leap faster than anything I'd ever imagined. And that is what happened. To be in total alignment with my business and the frequency of my expansion, I had to experience the unalignment. That is what I chose at the time. So then I can share with you the difference between unalignment and resistance. Okay. So you don't have to go through the experience of unalignment to receive that yourself. It is simply a choice. And you can take what I have said to you as well. But one of the biggest things I want you to also know is you've had plenty of times in your life where you've done unaligned things because you thought that's what you should do or what was expected, and you would have got a lot of lessons out of that. But now you know the difference between the resistance and the unalignment. We can make choices and still quantum leap, still collapse those timelines, and also heal from those past times when we have chosen things that weren't aligned. The frequency of your expansion is sitting in your vortex. The frequency of the money that you hold, that you have in your bank account, that you have in your wallet, that is around you and in your body, and all the material things that you have, it's sitting in your vortex. And we can reach for those amazing things and bring them into this reality, into a 3D, more solid reality, if we choose to. And you can make this really easy by asking the question, what is in alignment with me? What is currently in alignment with me, with what I'm choosing for my future why, for my future vision, for my why? And you're able to start kind of like sewing those threads together to create more, right? So we can start seeing how the patterns all start playing out, and we start healing through all time and spaces and all dimensions as well. So we've got all of these parallel timelines, and we are leaping every time we make that choice. We are leaping every time we follow that gut, even if it makes no sense to anything. Doing a summit made absolutely no sense to me. Writing a book made absolutely no sense to me. Starting a podcast, I was told, don't do a podcast, especially if you want to make any money from it. You won't. And I was like, I don't want to do it for making money. I didn't want to do Mum's Time to Shine, the summit, to make money. And I didn't want to create magnificent mediumship or write a book for money. All of that came from a soul-led, like heart space of expansion and a frequency that I feel is so much greater than mine, but it is connected to mine, which is what I would call like an open source energy. So when you're bringing this energy into your business, it's not about the tangible result. It's not about the 100K month, the 10K month, the 5K month, the $1 million month. They're great targets. And we can certainly put that up to the universe of, I require this, going forward. But then it's leaning back and not looking externally for the system or the structure, unless you're actually drawn to something. And just like the book, with the book coach, how it all just landed on my lap, right? I knew it was an alignment because I didn't have to try too hard, and it felt energetically correct. And I had to tap in with the divine timing. I was like, this is ridiculous. This is not what I expected to be doing at this time of the year when I've got other things happening. But because I'm consciously aware enough to know the feeling of alignment, I knew it was a path I had to go on. And then I expect the resistance to come in. A lot of people run at resistance. And I say, stand there, drop your barriers, open your heart, and take the next step forward. There is always, always, always a solution. And you can always navigate what that feels like that's energetically correct for you, because you are the creator of your reality. And another thing that popped in as well was when I was speaking to my book coach, the offer that she had for me about having 2 sessions a month and doing this and doing that and doing this, we played with the molecules of that, the energy of that. And I said, that doesn't really feel energetically correct for me. What feels correct is having communication with you on this day and having a session, once a month, and then re-navigating every single month to see what we require energetically. And she was like, oh my goodness, that's exactly what I've been calling in, is someone to play with the energy to see what energetically is correct for us. You get to play with the molecules. You get to set your own GPS to where you're going and the time frame you want to do it. When you put too many solid kind of full stops at the end or too many rules in place, then the wriggle room, the scenic route literally gets taken off and it becomes a lot more dense. So I invite you to play with the expansion, play with the frequency, and allow a lot of that divine feminine energy to come in, a lot of the quietness, a lot of the navigating to come in. And when it drops in, like the book did, like, here it is. It just showed up, just like Magnificent Mediumship did, just like the Summit did. When these things happened, I was able to take aligned divine action and take the next steps to follow through. When the resistance came, I knew how to lead myself through there. And I've always made sure I've had a team of coaches, really great friends. I've got a great partner and my husband to actually help me navigate through the hurdles or the bumps, the resistance, because what I'm doing is great. And what you're doing is great in whatever context that is, whether it's parenting, relationships, tapping into your spiritual time, spiritual space, your emotions, a new business journey, a new side hustle, because you just don't know where it's going. When we have that niggle, follow the niggle. This is where you are doing quantum leaps. I hope you have received so much from this. Please always remember that my channels are called a codex. So you can hear something, and then the next time you hear it again, you may hear something completely different. And also it's a lot of talking to the subconscious, so your subconscious can come out and receive the information. And there's a lot of quantum leaps. There's a lot of quantum leaps in this work. So take what you will and go get your journal and ask your question. Is this resistance or is this unaligned? What is that niggle? How do I feel? Do I feel heavy or light? What is my next divine aligned step, which is the divine masculine? And also we have got the divine feminine in allowing the drop-ins.
To today's episode.
See you soon.
I trust that you got those golden nuggets that you required to shift your consciousness, to expand your awareness, and to turn up your capacity. I invite you to share this podcast with anyone that you feel would benefit from it. And also share the golden nuggets that you have learned with your friends, family, and of course, clients. You can contact me if there's anything that you want to specifically share with me, or if there's anything you want me to specifically share on the podcast. You can check out the show notes and find me on my socials, and myself or my team will get back to you. My heart to yours. Have a beautiful day, and I'll see you soon.